Good morning and welcome to the FTA Ireland member briefing. This meeting will be recorded. And the theme of today's briefing is the skills shortage. Specifically, we look at the opportunities for employers to effectively promote vacancies, both nationally and at European level as well. The driver skills shortage has been grabbing the headlines, particularly in Britain in recent weeks, and there's no doubt that it's a growing issue in Ireland, but perhaps not to the same intensity and for the same reasons. The supply chain is a complex undertaking that extends beyond the scope and capabilities of a single organization, and relationships within the supply chain do matter. We are in the midst of unprecedented change within global supply chains due to the COVID pandemic, and more locally because of the implications of the new trade regulatory requirements as a consequence of Brexit. Because of the distorted marketplace we find ourselves in, opening and closing of large sections of international markets and economies has resulted in the freight distribution and logistics sector competing for talent with other sectors. It is also evident recently where competition for drivers between businesses in the haulage sector and own account sectors manifests itself through significant changes in pay offered for these essential workers, and maybe not a bad thing. But in some instances, there is growing anecdotal evidence that this competition is leading to non-compliant practices taking place, supported by insufficient enforcement. It is important to point out that, as is the ethos of our association that promotes the highest compliance and professional operational standards through our truck safe and van safe standards, operational compliance to working time regulations, roadworthiness requirements, and understanding the mechanisms for subsistence payments and necessary training must continue to be supported and promoted by all. We are all in charge of our own destiny, and working collectively, we must focus on respect within the supply chain. Consignors have a key role in supporting the haulage sector through a thorough understanding of the services that are offered and the necessity for compliance. Consignors' own liability is often dismissed following the procurement of services, and more must be done to raise awareness of their continued obligations to influence compliant operations that they contract. Each link in the supply chain have a vested interest in each other. In the spirit of collaboration, FTA Ireland are delighted to see more progression in terms of engagement with state agencies on topics and issues pertaining to road safety, skills, the environment, and operator licensing, to name but a few, culminating recently in the consultation for the 10-year haulage strategy. So on to the agenda for this morning. I would like to thank all the contributors. To our briefing this morning, all of whom are colleagues on the Logistics Expert Skills Group chaired by the Department of Transport and supported by the Department of Business. I'm pleased to welcome Ray Leary, Assistant General Secretary from the department, who will say a few words of introduction. I will then highlight some of the key points from our submission to the 10-year haulage strategy with reference to skills and provide an update on the development of the new driver apprenticeship. Following my presentation, Dr.Jane O'Keefe from National Maritime College of Ireland and MTU will highlight the important work currently being undertaken by the Logistics Expert Skills Group. Gilmore and Anne-Marie Galvin from the Department of Welfare will provide essential information, guidance and supports available to employers to promote and advertise their job vacancies in Ireland and throughout Europe. A campaign for driver vacancies is being explored, and Jean is happy to discuss directly with employers following the presentation. If you have any questions for the panel, please use the Q&A facility and we'll get to as many questions as we can following the presentations. And if we do not get to all questions, we will send out answers to these questions to delegates after the meeting. So I'd like to invite Ray to say a few words now. Thanks, Ray.
Good morning, or indeed good afternoon, whatever, or evening, whatever time people are going to view this. Because I know things, everybody, the world for the past year and a half has been divided into people who are incredibly busy and people who are not busy enough. And I appreciate that the logistics and freight sector has been one of the ones that has been incredibly busy and has functioned extraordinarily well. I think we have seen how both the private sector and the public sector can step up and actually serve the common good in a way that is something that we all perhaps hoped we would never be asked to do, but I think people have done in an extraordinary way. And I just want to mention that and express our appreciation for what my colleagues have done, but also for what the stakeholders have done throughout the freight and logistics sector that have kept the food on the tables. And I joke sometimes the toilet paper on the shelves, but also the vaccines, the medical treatments, the essential supplies that have kept people alive. We don't talk about the freight and logistics sector as frontline, but it most certainly is. Doesn't matter how many beds you have in a hospital or how many staff, if they haven't got the equipment and they haven't got the medicines and they haven't got the supplies. So I just want to put that on the record first. Secondly, picking up on Aidan's points, this is an extraordinarily challenging time because we are aware of the challenge of both what you might call acute skill shortages in certain subsectors of freight and transport, but also a broader agenda in terms of a period of rapid change in the sector, in terms of how it will be shaped, because the same factors that are shaping all kinds of transport in terms of increased digitization, electrification, the move towards sustainability, these are also challenges for this sector as well. They're also facing the immediate challenges that have happened, and I want to just say a few words around the issues specifically on HGV drivers, which Aidan has mentioned, because I know that's of grave concern to many operators here and has impacted in the way he is talking about. First of all, at the highest level, at the ministerial level in this department, we are focused on it. I know the Minister in Enterprise, Trade and Employment, we are very acutely aware of the concerns in the industry. We want to do everything we can to support and strengthen the supply of suitably qualified, safe drivers. Picking up on Aidan's point, it does not serve the industry to compromise its standards. It does not serve your operations to compromise your standards. Dangerous drivers cost money. They're going to cost you in insurance terms. It may seem safe to have risky practices or lower standard driving. It will cost you money in insurance terms. So ultimately, it's in the interests of an efficient industry to have good standards as well, even if there is an attraction to short-term savings. We all know that I'm tempted to use the kind of phrases I grew up with, spoil the ship for a ha'porth of tar. That's a bit addressed to our maritime colleagues, but it's very true. Maintaining quality and standards. And there's a role for the state, both in setting those standards, and I certainly note the comments in relation to the concerns around enforcement, and that is something we will also be taking away on the other side in terms of strengthening what we can do to support the supply and the challenges. In terms of skill shortages, I think one of the issues will be around not just, sometimes you just have to look at the business model. Is there a way you can move goods while using less drivers? Is there a way of more efficiently deploying the driver staff? What we're facing more immediately is, of course, not just the COVID, the interruptions to various both services and, in a sense, the supply and demand end of the freight and logistics sector, but also the significant disruption of Brexit. It has impacted on the labour market directly to the extent that we were in a way as part of a common labour market with the UK, but it's also changed the nature of the movement of goods between Ireland and particularly the rest of Europe. And this is a significant challenge. It does mean that Ireland has a unique geographical challenge, including in relation to the labour market and specifically the transport labour market. Putting it very bluntly, if you're driving a truck from Ireland to the rest of Europe, it's a lot more complicated than it is driving a truck from Poland to the rest of Europe. That is now a reality. We're an offshore island, and the shortest route goes through a third country. That is clearly a part, I think, of our challenge in terms of trying to address the issues that are appearing specifically in the Irish market for HGV drivers. And at the same time, this is happening when it's a globally acute issue. You know, I constantly issues about the crisis in America. We're seeing the impact within the UK because of now isolation from the UK labour market. And apparently we have senior government ministers telling the industry there that, no, we're not going to let you import more drivers from abroad. You're apparently to take people off the toll queues who've been unemployed because of COVID. So I'm looking forward to a lot of waiters being retrained as drivers. I'm not sure that is necessarily the best approach, although there's always the approach, and that'll be touched on, about redeploying people who have maybe who have skills that are no longer employable in one sector, but can be redeployed, because we know that the future for us all, including in the public sector, is a constantly learning environment. So look, to wrap it up, I could go on at length. We've gone too long already, but just to say we are very conscious of the bigger issues, but we know the only way we can solve this is collectively. We will look at what we can do with our colleagues. We've invited, by the way, Aidan didn't mention, the Minister Nocturne has invited the members of the Logistics and Skills Group for suggestions that can help to address the current acute shortage of HGV drivers. We'll be reviewing those shortly. We'll be putting submissions to the Minister, and hopefully we'll make some announcements. There is no magic instant bullet to solve it, but there are steps that we can take in the short and medium term to look at it. But ultimately, industry itself would look at how we can most efficiently deploy a more we can widen the pool, working with our colleagues in places like Solus in terms of accessing the wider labour market across Europe, and indeed possibly outside the European Union. But the industry will need to work with us on that. We need to maintain standards on this. You know, there are countries that people have mentioned that, frankly, I've been on the roads on, and I do not want drivers from those countries driving in Ireland. I don't want that responsibility morally. But there are ways we can widen the pool. There are ways we can enhance the supply of training, and there are ways we can use what we have more efficiently. But we can only do that collectively and cooperatively. And to that extent, I thank all the members of the Logistics and Skill Group, and I particularly thank Aidan and his colleagues in the FTA and many of the partners in the industry who have responded to very constructive suggestions to the Minister's invitation. Now, I better shut up because there's a lot more interesting stuff to hear than my ramblings. But I just want to say, this industry doesn't get enough appreciation. I have thought since I started working with it, we take it for granted that our shelves will be full. We take it for granted there will be medicine in the hospital. We take it for granted without thinking, and Brexit and COVID made people think a little bit about just how complex it is, how challenging it is, and how sophisticated an industry it is. But we're beginning to take it for granted again, and we'll do our best to make sure it's never taken for granted again. All right, thank you very much, and good luck with this morning's seminar.
Thanks very much, Ray. Really appreciate those words, and I think reiterate and concur with the fact that collaboration is so important in terms of developing and delivering solutions which are badly needed. So, without further ado, I will go through a brief presentation summarising a couple of points from our submission on the 10-year haulage strategy, and also to point out that we have made a submission at the request, obviously, of the department, as Ray pointed out, and looking for solutions to the skills shortage, and some of these are obviously relevant for that as well. And both of those are available to our members on our website. So in terms of the driver shortage issue, I mean, there are a myriad of complex reasons for the shortage, but to understand the possible solutions, we must try and understand the problems, and Ray kind of very eloquently highlighted a lot of them already. But at a tangible level, that we can see a lot of drivers have returned to their home countries during COVID, and are taking up extended holidays, unfortunately, but some of these may return, and certainly from an international haulage perspective, we're very, very reliant on our Eastern European colleagues for the function of driving in this country. So that is a real challenge. Respect for drivers as a cohort within the supply chain is routinely highlighted by drivers themselves. And I think Ray kind of highlighted that as well, in terms of the industry not being appreciated. And that's a core reason why a lot of drivers feel fed up in their roles. And I suppose if drivers can't promote their own profession, we need to look at those reasons very carefully to try and change that quite quickly. There's a lack of appreciation within the society, the key role that the supply chain drivers in particular play in delivering services and products, as mentioned. But the driving profession must distinguish itself from the perception that it's effectively unskilled labour. And I think collectively, there's an opportunity within the Expert Logistics Skills Group to help shape that into the future. Issues with operator compliance are perpetuated by driver resource shortages, distorting the driver retention and recruitment landscape, that there is no doubt. Drivers are enticed to move jobs at a growing frequency due to the promise of cash in hand, fixed subsistence payments. Others are supplementing their income by moonlighting with other operators, facilitated through working time and tachograph breaches. These issues are contributing to increased road safety risks, fatigue and lack of training in new roles and so on. And they contribute to unfair competition where compliant operators are finding it increasingly difficult to retain staff and operate within the regulatory boundaries. So in terms of the 10-year haulage strategy, I mean, the main areas that the department were looking for feedback on pertain to Brexit, environmental decarbonisation, road safety, mobility package, road infrastructure, labour market skills and intermodal transport. All very, very important. But we carried out a survey of our members to determine what our members' key areas were in terms of ranking. And road safety was top of the ranking, with labour skills second and environmental issues third. And this highlights, I suppose, the focus on safe operations, but also a requirement for fully resourced fair enforcement bodies such as the RSA and the Gardaí. And this is critical in making the industry more appealing as a regulated professional industry looking after the interests of all its employees. So key points from the submission. Over and beyond what we were asked to submit, I suppose, creating an environment where compliant operators are supported by a fair, sufficiently resourced enforcement regime is critical. I know I'm repeating myself here, but it is important that supporting the haulage sector maintain the highest safety standards and attract young, discerning men and women into the profession. From a haulage sector, the average age driver is over 50. We really need to start focusing on how we can try and attract younger people into the industry. Developing a code of practice for the sector is a suggestion for consideration. It's a start at combining a lot of guidance and information, particularly on safe operations, relevant to both the employer and employee, similar to what they have in the farming sector. The average size haulage business is 5.5 trucks. These are small businesses where typically the owner drives as well. So making information that's really important to the operations of these businesses available to companies of this size is really, really important. Developing a regime that has responsibility for compliance within the haulage sector and powers to restrict licenses, withdraw licenses, allow fair and quick arbitration is worth considering to support the Department of Transport and the Road Safety Authority in delivering fair competition where all understand their roles. Resources must be increased to support safety and operator compliance. There simply are not enough Gardaí and Road Safety Authority inspectors to cover commercial operator compliance. And indeed, the rules of engagement must be clarified to support this cohort deliver fair enforcement. And they are real feedback from our members in terms of keeping that level playing pitch. So in terms of some of the recommendations pertaining to the skills piece, you can see them there. The transport and logistics sector has been less successful than others in recruiting younger workers over the years, due in many factors, including a perception that it's made up of predominantly low-skilled jobs requiring to work long hours. The lack of diversity within the profession of driving is also telling, and this perception must change. The importance of training and education to shaping the image of driving as a profession cannot be understated. It's not all doom and gloom, as the industry is vibrant, that offers plentiful job opportunities with great career opportunities. What we need to do as a collective is get better at promoting these opportunities and work together to change the image. We see through our participation on the likes of the Logistics Associate Apprenticeship that where there's collaboration within the sector and with the academic sector supported by the state, great things happen. There are over 100 new apprentices starting their apprenticeship journey in MTU and TU Dublin in a couple of weeks' time. And this is a great credit to the industry in general to work collectively to deliver something so positive for the industry. So on to the driver apprenticeship, and we're very, very excited about this program. We are, FTA Ireland are the lead proposer. We're working with Sligo IT as the coordinating provider, and a dynamic consortium representing industry to get this apprenticeship up and running for January 2022. This is a 2-year level 6 higher certificate in transport operations and commercial driving, and will be the first qualification on the national framework of qualifications linked to the profession of commercial driving. As an earn as you learn apprenticeship, the apprentices must be in full-time employment and will spend 1 day a week at college. This will be an online program, and the on-road driver training will take place in the region the apprentices are located. So there will be a nominal academic fee, but it is fully funded, and the on-road driver training is fully funded through the Higher Education Authority. The driver CPC test, the on-road driving tests are also covered. Online college, first semester will start in January 22. From 2022, all apprenticeships will be listed on the CEO as well, albeit not requiring points. So the timing couldn't be better to introduce this new apprenticeship as we strive to encourage young men and women consider commercial driving as a viable and interesting career choice. An added benefit of having an apprenticeship, of course, would be access to career guidance in schools, providing information and highlighting the benefits of working in the freight distribution and logistics sector. And I think that is invaluable. More information on this apprenticeship will be provided in due course, and formal registration will start in October 2021. And we're delighted that support from the government for employers wishing to recruit apprentices, such as the €3,000 apprenticeship allowance, are available for employers that will be looking to take on a commercial driver apprentice in January. So just to give you an idea of the timeline of development, we're on the final development phase, currently reviewing and finalizing the college content and modules. The program will be submitted for validation at Sligo IT at the end of October, and then ready to action the industry training order approved by government probably in November, with the first apprentices starting in early January 2022. So thanks very much for your time. Anybody who wants more information on this driver apprenticeship, if they can email us, our details will be at the end of this presentation. We'll be happy to send out more information to you in relation to that. And you can get access to our 10-year haulage strategy submission off our website. So now I'm delighted to introduce Dr. Jane O'Keefe, who will give our next little presentation. And Jane is an academic at the National Maritime College of Ireland, a constituent college of Munster Technological University, MTU, and our main areas of focus are business strategy, supply chain management, and logistics for both logistics and maritime sectors. Jane has extensive experience in the development of supply chain management degrees, modules, and programs at all levels of the European framework of qualifications. Jane's research areas include logistics and supply chain management and climate change adaptation. Appointed by the Minister for Transport to the board of Shannon Foyne's Port Company in 2020 as a supply chain and climate change adaptation expert in the Irish seaport sector. Thanks very much, Jane, and I'll pass over to you now.
Thank you, Aidan. So thank you, and from the Expert Skills Group, we are very pleased to be able to present today and to support the initiative of the FTA in Ireland's skills shortage briefing. So basically, the Expert Skills Group, just to give you a little bit of background on the Expert Skills Group. So it's basically from a national perspective, it's an independent non-statutory body established in 1997. And it's tasked with advising government on current and future skills needs of the Irish economy, right? And within the logistics and the supply chains sector, we've had basically two reviews within the past 6 years. So the membership really of the skills group then is like government departments, And very much in our case, it would be the Department of Transport and the enterprise development agencies, Enterprise Ireland, etc. The HEA would be involved, future skill education training, solace and business and trade union communities, right? Looking at obviously the jobs initiative. Secretariat then obviously with data and provides our particular group, then the logistics and supply chain group with research and the analysis support. And then it is part of the sophisticated national skills architecture, and the sectorial and occupational skills then demands studies then inform the Work Skills Council then and advises on prioritization of skills needs. And obviously very much today we're talking about the haulage and the driver section within logistics and supply chain. So here, more just a little bit on the background here then again, is that, you know, like, why is it important, you know? And I think even what Ray was saying and what Aidan was saying, you know, it's just supply chain logistics. We're an island nation. It is hugely important. So like road freight here, the most common means of transport, and absolutely in Ireland, we rely heavily on it. Air freight is 1%, quite small, obviously then with high value goods, pharmaceuticals, etc. Very much would use air freight from that perspective, and obviously on from an export perspective. But sea freight is huge. Sea freight can be up to 90%, sometimes 95% of volume of goods by volume exported, imported to Ireland, and hugely important. And most of that then would be by ro-ro as well. The article right on logistics supply chain activities and facilitating movement of goods, right, and you know, keeping that flow of goods going, etc. So here there are challenges then facing logistics and supply chain activities. There is a difficulty in recruiting because it's not a choice sector, and this has been a big challenge really for our expert skills group within the logistics and supply chain area. And it's not, you know, it's not one of the top areas, and that's what we're trying to change. It's low profile, improving, but it is, unfortunately, and little knowledge of how it operates. And that's a big thing, right? That it's just an unknown, and everything, and I think Ray alluded to it and so did Aidan, things move. So it's only when there's a crisis that we see, wow, look what's happened, right? An aging workforce. And this is a huge problem here for us also. Career progression. And this is what's lacking. And this is what our group is absolutely focusing on, that there is a career progression for folks. You know, sector failing to develop talent from within and so forth. So that's what we're looking at here. And again, I suppose within this particular domain, logistics and supply chain, there absolutely have our CAO courses out there. And a big thing over the years has been CPD, continuous professional development, and that will not change, right? There are folks basically doing college courses, doing all sorts of courses, training, etc. During the work day, and also then obviously evening courses, night courses, etc. But the one that we're looking at today really is the apprenticeship. And you know, Aidan has mentioned the apprenticeship, the driver apprenticeship, and also the logistics apprenticeship. And with an MTU and TUD, we've had this apprenticeship going about 4 years at this stage. And it's, you know, there's tremendous support and interest in that and growing. So these are the areas then. It's just one option, one way of actually fixing that those issues. So just a little bit back again then on the skills demand and forecast. And this again came out from the skills group in the Department of Enterprise, and looking at it there from 2016 to 2025, right? And basically it was projected and forecasted that like about 30,000 new entrants will be coming into that space. And that really is right across the domain there, right? And they're big numbers, and they need to be trained, they need to be educated and so forth. And they need to have a career path, right? And this is the thing we're looking at. So need support and promotion of careers, skills development and sustainable employment in logistics and supply chain sector. So we need to keep those folks in those areas, or that they can see a plan for themselves. And here just to show you who's involved in our expert skills group, it's chaired by the Department of Transport. And then you can see some of the logos here, but I didn't call them out here. So we've the CILT, Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, the Freight Transport Association of Ireland, IBEC, Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers on the maritime side, the National Maritime College of Ireland, where I'm residing myself within MTU, Irish Exports Association, there's IPEX, International Freight Association, Irish Road Haulage Association, education and training providers, and that's quite broad, Department of Enterprise, Trade and Employment, as we said, further education, and Department of Social Protection. So it's a very, very wide breadth of knowledge and expertise coming to the fore there. So here, and supply chain. So like, what are we basically doing here? So it's basically a forum then of ongoing communication. So it monitors labor market developments. So can we get that feedback basically from all those departments that we mentioned? Profile of logistics supply chain roles. And this is what we're working on, is creating those profiles for all the different sectors. Making progression pathways available, right? So showing folks that, you know, after 5 years, if they wanted to move to something differently, or how do they do that? And the clear role definitions then mapped out. So this is something that the experts, our expert skills group, is challenged to do over the next number of months, or the next, hopefully within the next year, that we'll have this seriously worked on, and that we can produce some materials there. Ensure then development opportunities are available, and so forth. So the group is divided. Actually, we have basically 2 subgroups within our logistics and supply chain expert skills group. And this was really just to have champions, and also then to look at different sectors. So once the section that I'm involved in with Declan Allen from TUD, we're looking basically at the educational side and those pathways there. And then the other group then is looking more at industry and how we can basically bring those together. So subgroup 1, delivering careers promotion campaigns. So that's what we're looking at, to enhance awareness and attractiveness then of logistics and supply chain into the sectors. And that's CAO, that's school leavers, that's right across the board. Improve alignment then between curriculum and industry needs. So that's obviously always an ongoing thing, but you know, the colleges, people are really tuned into that and very supportive. Establishing occupational profiles, as we said, we're working on that, and education and promotional tools. And this is we're working on with the career guidance institutes, and that's been very, very helpful as well. And then on the subgroup 2, build employment connections then to close the skills gap. Okay, so that's really critical, and encourage best practice amongst the sector. And that's the development then of identifying champions that will go out there and basically support the industry cause. So what we've been involved, it was basically sort of set up in late 2019. So, you know, within the past kind of year and a half and so forth, these are the kind of things we've been working on. We've conducted a national and logistics supply chain student survey, right? So just to see how do people get into the industry and what were their thoughts around that. Development then of a network panel of champions, and this is ongoing. Ideas of promotional campaign for second level. So we focused back on that, and we were delighted to be invited to the Career Guides Career Counsellors, the IGC annual conference this year. So we presented at that conference, and we were basically in touch, you know, with the hundreds of career guidance officers who are in the schools, and that was something that has really helped our cause here. Creating a competency framework for logistics and supply chain. I'll show that in a minute. Mapping career pathways, and the annual report. So basically a report is published by the Department of Transport and with all of us involved, and that report is available on the website and is well worth a read as to where all this is at. This was just a little thing here on the survey. So we, as I said, we basically did a survey with all the students then involved in supply chain logistics, and this was basically the apprentices, the current students, graduates of the CAO, degree graduates, right? So have gone out of school into college, and then basically finished, and where do they end up and so forth. And also then the part-time, so those who are in industry, and there's many of those doing degrees basically at night and so forth, and we took the feedback there. So that was really very helpful going forward. So just to show you the career progression scenarios, these are the kind of competency frameworks that we'll be producing and sharing. So just as just an example, so we'll start off say with the entry role. It could be a trainee buyer, an expediter, warehouse operative, a driver. You know, we're basically going to work right across the whole spectrum of what's involved in supply chain. And then the next progression would be logistic, we're just saying like a planner, a buyer would be their next progression after X number of years, senior planner, senior buyer, supply chain specialist, and so forth. So it's just the progression pathway, and then how they can move vertically or horizontally across all these pathways, so they can for themselves see, a plan for their career. The role career guidance then is obviously hugely important. So that's why we were very pleased that we presented at the career, and we are very much in touch with the Career Guidance Institute. And it's the awareness of extensive range of existing career opportunities. And it was, when we did our survey with the students, we asked the question, when you were, how you got interested in supply chain or logistics or any of those areas, did the career guidance assist you in your school? And the result was, excuse me, over 80% said no, they heard nothing about logistics or supply chain from their career guidance people. So that's why we think, we're really hopefully be able to change that idea, that at that level people will understand there are careers out there in this area. So the supply chain has multiple elements. We said the competency frameworks, characteristics, role behaviors, competencies, and on-the-job experience. And that's where it comes in very much, okay, yes, we've got school leavers, and we're very much focusing on these folks and the apprenticeships. And then we have the graduates area here then post that. So finally here, just what are we looking at now for 2021 and beyond? So the champions firmly established and matched with a calendar of events. So we're looking at a calendar of events, this year, next year, and where the champions can assist, because obviously there's a lot to do. Successful attendance then at the conference, work to continue on development of promotional campaign at second level, and inventory of education offerings available. So these are being worked on. The mapping the career pathways I mentioned, and exploring further the possibility of logistics and supply chain careers portal. And this is really important for all the areas within supply chain, that there can be a portal that people can go in and see what jobs are available, equally so that they can see the plan, see all these materials. So that's being worked on, and obviously with the headed by and with the assistance of the Department of Transport. So that's something that's really critical to all of this as well. So thank you for your time today, and we're interested in answering any questions later. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Jane. They're very informative. I think it's really important that to highlight the work that has been done on this. As Ray mentioned at the outset, unfortunately, there is no silver bullet to delivering in terms of the skills shortage, and I think it's very evident that this isn't a new phenomenon, but we do have to work collectively and collaboratively. So it's great to see the work that's been done on it, and to see such a broad collection of industry stakeholders. So thanks very much for that. Now I'd like to welcome Jean Gilmore from the European Employment Services Network, URI's Deputy National Co-Ordinator, to detail the services available to employers to promote jobs and support for us at a European level. Jean has over 20 years working in the area of employer engagement, employment advisor and training supports, as well as enterprise support for startups, both here and in the UK. Following Jean, her colleague Anne-Marie Galvin, Key Account Manager at the Department of Social Protection, will cover the national supports available to employers in their quest to recruit. And Anne-Marie has worked in the Department of Social Protection for over 20 years as employer in the Employer Relations Unit as a Key Account Manager since July 2019, and has responsibility for the logistics sector. So Anne-Marie will follow Jean's presentation. Over to you, Jean. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Aidan. Good morning, everyone. So it's really just to start off, just explaining a little bit about. Sometimes there's a little bit of confusion of when we mention the Department of Social Protection, exactly, what our role is within the department. I suppose, just to put it simply, we're the employer relations team, which comprises of URA's, Jobs Ireland, and your local Intero office. So it's kind of, if you like, a one-stop shop for employers. But today I'm going to particularly talk about the European Employment Service as part of the department. support for employers. So I suppose for those of you who haven't heard of URAs before, you know, we have been providing services for employers for over 25 years, and the key point is to help employers to recruit workers in Europe. So just to give a little bit of background there, so that's great, thank you. We work with 31 countries, including part member states within the European Union, which would be Norway, Liechtenstein, Iceland, and Switzerland. We have over 1,000 specially trained URAs advisors who have trained within the European network, whether it's you know, in specialized areas in terms of supporting employers. And we have a team of 8 people based in the head office. We used to be in Goldsmith House, obviously we're working from home now, and then we have a number of URAs advisors across the country that you can link in with. We also have a European database which will show the employment opportunities and traineeships across Europe, and has almost 3 million vacancies available at any one time. That obviously has been affected by COVID, but we're seeing a huge pickup in the demand for workers across Europe, across all sectors. So that's key there, which is your address to link into the service. I suppose the principal functions of URAs really is to provide a European-wide placement service for employers. And I suppose the focus here really is to support you to avail of the supports that we have to find you the right people because of the skill shortages within the sector. We also offer pre-departure and on-arrival advice and counselling for job seekers coming. Thanks, Aidan. So there's our URAs advisors across Ireland. We also have a new URAs advisor there up in the Northwest. So this information is all available on our website, and you can make a direct link with your local URAs advisors, or indeed directly with myself, and I can link you in. So I suppose our key focus now is to help employers with difficult to fill vacancies in Ireland, and to help them advertise their jobs in Europe. Previous to COVID, we would have had on-site jobs fairs in Ireland, and we would actually have brought employers abroad to particular European countries to do jobs fairs on site. So, you know, depending on the sector and where that sector sees the possibility of recruitment, we would normally be able to organize an event in that country for the employer and bring them over. We can even do a tailored recruitment event. But really at the moment, all our supports are around our European online job days. And they're actually working out really, really well. Everything has gone online. We've done a number of events this year, and we will be linking in with the logistics sector in an event quite shortly. So I'll tell you about that when we come to the end of these slides. The key thing here is all URA services are free of charge. So, you know, you're linking in with a huge network of job seekers across Europe. And in fact, a lot of the time when vacancies go up on, say, the URA site or Jobs Ireland site, you'll often find them filtered out onto other sites like Indeed or, you know, other Monster and other sites. So it really is a kind of a gateway into recruitment and into those recruitment sites. So again, you have the site there. This is actually our URA's platform, where this is open to all European job seekers and employers. So it's actually there. You can go in and you can find candidates. That's just to show you an idea of what the platform looks like. So I'd encourage you to go in and have a look and see what's available there. At the moment, you can translate into different languages as well. So to advertise online, we would encourage you to go directly to Jobs Ireland first, and your job will automatically be transferred onto the European website, unless you ask for it not to be. It's kind of an integrated service now. And also you can contact your local EURES advisors to talk about a dedicated recruitment program or project, which we have done in the past for different sectors. Next slide. So we can also talk to you about particularly targeting a UE member state or states to do a tailored recruitment. We can also link in with our colleagues in that particular country, them to screen and collect CVs on your behalf, and then we can forward the CVs directly to you. We can also offer interview schedules and organize interview facilities in normal situations, but we can also offer that now online, which I'll explain a little bit more about in a second. These are some of the sectors we've worked with. I suppose in the past, hospitality would have been quite a big sector, and we see that coming back now quite strongly. Also, I suppose companies who are looking for people with languages. We have the IT sector, healthcare sector, and agri-food sector. And now, certainly we'll be focusing in on the logistics, distribution, and transport sector. So normally we would do on-site days, and we do a big event in late March, early April in Dublin Castle, where we would have up to 5,000 job seekers coming in, and some of you may have been employers at that recruiting in the past. Then we do the tailored on-site recruitment there, as I mentioned, where we bring employers over to particular countries where they see they may be able to fill their vacancies. And we hope to get back to that next year, fingers crossed. And then we have our online events there. You can see at the end there, Jobs Ireland recruitment event for EURES. And that's really where we're focusing at the moment. So far, this was one of the earlier ones we did, Careers in Hospitality and Tourism, back in 2018. And that was an online event. We also then had Careers in Ireland in 2020. And even with the pandemic, there was still quite a bit of movement in particular sectors. And, we're finding that it's been very successful. It's the new way of working, particularly in recruitment and reaching out to skilled workers in other countries. And we did a healthcare event this year, at the beginning of the year, with a number of different countries. Again, it depends on the need of the sector and where they see they may find those job seekers and job changers to fill the skill shortage. Just a little bit more in relation to our online event this year. So we had 91 companies, 290 jobs, and like nearly over 1,500 positions. And we did find a lot of carers and nurses that were desperately needed this year to come and relocate to Ireland and work for the home care services, the nursing homes, etc. So there is a lot of competition, as I'm sure you're aware, in the skill shortages area, but it just goes to show that we did have success in events we have run in the last 18 months. We also offer financial support for job seekers coming from another country. If it's for interview, it's up to €300. That could be to book flights and accommodation towards their costs. If they're successful in their interview and they want to move abroad to take up the job, we offer relocation financial support of 1,120. We also offer language training, and that can be something we can work with you in providing for staff that are coming from abroad to take up vacancies, and they may need some language training. So it's just to bear that in mind. And then we do have, for small SMEs, we do have some financial support for recruiting workers from abroad and helping them to settle in this country. Again, it's all on our website. So I know there's a lot of information there, and I ran through it quite quickly. But I suppose the key thing is myself and Anna Marie are here to assist you. And that is my direct, you can get directly in touch with me through eurays@welfare.ie, and that's the Eurays Ireland website to find out more information. So I just want to quickly tell you about the event that's coming up on the 4th of November. Aidan, I don't know if you have that slide there. I can certainly.
Sorry, Jean, I don't.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So I'll just see if I can share it there. Am I able to share? What do you think? I'll just tell you a little bit about it, actually. It's an event that we're working closely with Aidan and his team and the Logistics and Distribution Support Group. Basically, it's an event we're running on the 4th of November. It's particularly to focus on European recruitment for your sector. Also, it will involve other sectors as well. We're launching it this week, and invitations will be sent out to all the members, Aidan, via yourself with the help of you. You've been very supportive in this. So the key thing is, I suppose, with online job, the real importance is on you as the employer to load those vacancies up onto the site in plenty of time. And then on the day when we actually run the recruitment event, you will have applicants there applying directly to you. You'll be able to see their CVs. You'll be able to arrange to do interviews on the day. It's particularly in conjunction with Spain, but there will be other countries joining, and we will be promoting it throughout Europe. So it's really just hot off the press. So sorry, I don't have a little bit more information, but you will be getting those invitations via Aidan over the next week or so. We should hope to have it all kind of up and running and the platform live by the end of this week.
Yeah, thanks, Jean, and I'll get that information out there after this event. Thank you.
Great. Okay, so I'll just hand over now to Anne-Marie Galvin, my colleague in the Employer Relations team. Thank you.
Hi. Thanks, Jane, for that introduction, and thanks to everyone for taking the time out today. My name is Anne-Marie, and as Aidan said earlier, I work as a key account manager in the National Employer Relations Unit. And I'm just going to take the opportunity today to talk about some schemes and services that we offer to employers. Okay, so there is the jobsireland.ie recruitment platform that Jean has already spoken about to advertise your vacancies. We also have a work placement experience program that I'm going to talk about in more detail. And we have a Jobs Plus scheme, which is a financial incentive to take someone from the live register. Jean has already spoken about Eurays, so I'm going to skip down to the wage subsidy scheme for people with a disability. Okay, so the Work Placement Experience Programme, this scheme is part of the Pathways to Work Strategy 2021 to 2025, which was launched in July under the National Economic Strategy. And its aim is to help people back into the workforce as the economy recovers after the pandemic. It's not only for those who received the pandemic unemployment, it's also for those who wish to return to the workforce, maybe after a career break, those who are long-term unemployed, those who face additional barriers to employment, and of course, as Ray mentioned earlier, those who wish to redeploy into different sectors as their sector has suffered badly from the COVID-19. Okay, as the name of the program suggests, these are work experience trainee roles. They're essentially additional posts on top of your current workforce, although of course it's hoped that at the end of the training period, the trainee is kept on in a permanent role. But if that doesn't happen, at least they've gained more work experience to add to their CVs and have an accredited qualification to include. Okay, the placement lasts for 6 months and the participation is voluntary. So you get someone who wants to be there. The hours are 30 hours a week and the 306 personal base rate is paid by the department, so you don't pay anything. The trainee undertakes 60 hours of training in total. Of 20 hours must be sector recognised or accredited. So this works out at 3 hours a week or 2 weeks out of the 26. There is a training source, training by sector page on jobsireland.ie website if you want to source some training courses. And we also have a training module through the ETB, which is QQI accredited, and it can be used as well. So for this scheme, employers are referred to as hosts, as it's a training mentoring position and not a contract of employment. So basically, as a host, you're looking for somebody who fits your company ethos and who you think has a good attitude. Participants are aged across the board from 1865. Sorry, Aidan, can you just go back? Yeah, thanks. Participants are aged across the board from 1865 and they're on a qualifying department payment for a minimum of 6 months. Now, time spent on some department schemes, including the PUP, can be taken into account to meet this 6 months. There are limits to the number of participants based on the amount of employees a company has. So it starts at, if you have up to 10 employees, you can have 1 participant. And if you have 30 or more participants, you can take on 10% of your workforce to a maximum of 10 participants. A mentor's role must be assigned to the trainee, and that role is to help the trainee navigate their work, their new work and the new work environment. So it's separate to a supervisory role. We've also devised a mentor's toolkit and a half-day workshop if you've never gone down this route before. Just to note, displacement of employees isn't allowed in favour of participants. So what I mean by that is that you can't have vacancies in the same area or skill level of the placement, or you can't reduce hours of current staff to accommodate a placement. So if the trainee is taken on as an employee after the 6 months period ends, the Jobs Plus use then, and I'll give a quick run through of that in the next slide. So the host registers their placement advert on the jobsireland.ie website. And for those of you who've never registered with jobsireland.ie or placed an advert, there are instructional videos available on the site, which can help you through. The participant applies to the Jobs Ireland portal in the usual way. And once you choose your trainee, you must wait for the go-ahead from the work placement unit who are over the scheme. And then you decide on the 20 hours accredited training, what way that's going to work. And you get support with that with one of our case officers. Now, our case officers are based in Intero offices around the country, and they are someone there whose role it is to support job seekers get full-time employment or upskill. There's also a training support grant available if the course that you pick needs to be paid. That's up to €1,000. So once the only thing after that is that the host has to submit a monthly form just to ensure that everything is going okay, and that's just for us to keep the 306 weekly payments on board. So just to finish up this slide, if you are interested in taking on someone under this program, the benefits are that you have a trainee for 6 months with payroll savings of 7,956 at that time, and you've an introduction to mentoring in your business if you've never used it before, and you've played your part in the National Economic Recovery Plan. And hopefully, of course, at the end of the 6 month period, you have a new employee who's been trained by you. So for more information, you can find it there on the gov.ie WPEP website, and there are queries there at that email address, wpep@welfare.ie. Okay, thanks. Okay, so the payroll, the next one I'm going to talk about is the Job Plus scheme. So this is a payroll subsidy. It's available to employers when taking someone from the live register or when the WPEP finishes. It's not for use as a training role, so it has to be full employee role. They must work 30 hours per week. There is no limit to the number you can be paid for, the number of employees. You're paid monthly over 2 years, and the application is fairly straightforward. It's online. The rates paid for job seekers are linked to age and a period of unemployment. So they vary from 7,500 up to 10,000 over the 2-year period. And there's a table there you can see of the different criteria involved. Okay, next slide. Thank you. So this is just a comparison between the Jobs Plus or the WPP. So with the Jobs Plus, it's the type of support is a payroll subsidy. The value to the business is between 7,500 to 10,000 over the 2 years. The status is as an employee. Obviously, it's you pay the wages. There's no limit to the amount of people you can apply for the Jobs Plus scheme. The training is between yourself and your employee. The recruitment route is as normal through Indeed.ie and ourselves. And what happens at the end of the period is that the subsidy finishes. With the work placement scheme, this is a trainee position. You get nearly 8,000 payroll savings in the first 6 months. The employee status, is as a trainee, it's not an employee, so it's a job seeker. And we pay the 306 a week. So there is a limit to the amount of participants you can have. And there are set hours of work experience and accredited courses. And the vacancy has to come through the jobsireland.ie. And of course, at the end of the WPP, you can take the person on. If you take the person on, you might be able to get the Jobs Plus scheme after that time. Thanks, Aidan. So in Ireland, unfortunately, we have the lowest level of participation of people with disabilities in the workforce than any other European country. So in terms of supporting this, we have the wage subsidy scheme. So if you take somebody on into this scheme, they must work for a minimum of 21 hours a week. The subsidy is paid for a maximum of 39 hours per week. The rate starts at $5.30 per hour, which is more than half the national minimum wage. We have the Reasonable Accommodation Fund, and this recognises that changes may have to be made to the workplace to accommodate a person with disabilities, for example, for access reasons or to acquire specialised software. And then we have the Employee Retention Grant, and this is available if, unfortunately, somebody who is on your staff may acquire a disability, and you might have to adjust the area or give the job interview interpreter grant and a personal reader grant. The Disability Awareness Grant is also available there to help colleagues train to have an awareness of the disability when you're taking somebody on. And actually, anecdotally, having spoken to employers who've used the wage subsidy scheme, from a personal point of view, they said that overall the employees with the disability brought not only a great work ethic to the job, but they also boosted positivity among their colleagues, and you can't pay for that. Okay, next slide. Thank you. So this is what we normally do in the national side of the Employer Relations Division. So we basically help you with your recruitment needs. I know the focus today is on the HGV shortage, but there are other supply chain roles within logistics which can be hard to fill, such as customs officials or officers, or the warehouse staff. For example, there's 18 logistic adverts this morning on Jobs Ireland, which weren't drivers. So we do tailored recruitment. We do tailored recruitment campaigns for sector, or we do bespoke campaigns for if an individual employer comes to us. We have information events and job fairs, and of course it's all been online lately. So this year we had the Work and Skills online event in April. This was a mix of information and recruitment, which had over 11,000 views over the 4 days from job seekers and 836 views from employers who signed up for our support for Business Day. But obviously, hopefully we can return to more physical job fairs and information talks in the not too distant future. Our online promotions are Jobs Ireland URAs, and we have department social media platforms. Candidate sourcing is direct matching within Jobs Ireland platform, but we can also directly target those on the live register who might have the skills that you're looking for. We promote the vacancies throughout a range of networks, so that means we can advertise in the relevant local intro offices throughout the country. We also contact case officers to see if they have anyone on hand who might fit the role. We also contact the local jobs clubs and local employment services to promote your vacancies. Recruitment support for small and large number of vacancies using our dedicated support team. This is either the local employer relations divisions or the national key account managers. And this service is offered to you free of charge. For your recruitment needs, you can email us at employer@welfare.ie or phone and ask to speak to employer relations, and we're very happy to help. Now, just to finish off with the last slides, the pandemic unemployment payment has reduced. It's planning to wind down or start winding down now next month in September. And as of the 24th of August, there was 149,000 people, which is down from a peak of 600,000 in February. And the transport and storage area is currently around the 6,000 mark after a peak of over 13,500. But on this issue, I'm just have a slide here that if you have come across a situation where an employee has refused to turn to work or turned it down, we have an email address that will go to the department's control team to look into that in more detail. It's just possibly for yourselves as well, in that it might have redundancy implications further down the line. So I think that's about it. Thank you very much. Thanks very much for listening, and thanks obviously to Aidan for organising this platform today. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Very informative presentation, and plenty of food for thought there from both Jean and yourself. So really appreciated. I think for us here in FTA, the message really is that there are opportunities to promote vacancies, and I think there is an opportunity for employers, and anybody who wants to get in touch or can come via FTA into Anne-Marie or Jean, and we can look at developing that targeted approach for logistics, driver type of positions as well. And there's quite a bit of government support there in terms of back to work schemes as well, which I think is very, very good. I am conscious as well that we were probably 10 minutes over the 1 hour mark, but we might take a couple of quick questions for the panel, if you have any there, Catherine.
Hi, Aidan. Hi, everyone. There's a couple of questions that came through that I've answered, and I know Jean has gone through and Anne-Marie have gone through a couple of the other questions that have come in relation to further detail on work experience placement programme and also the wage subsidy scheme. If there's anything that the panel think that could be added further detail for the attendees before we sign off, that'd be great. And the final question was in relation to the employee to participant ratio. So somebody was looking for a bit of further detail on that.
I can answer that one. Yeah, so if it's up to 10 participants, 10 employees, it's 1 participant. If it's between 11 and 20, it's 2. Between 21 and 30, it's 3 participants. And if you have 30 employees, if you're a large company, it's either a maximum of 10 participants or 10% of your workforce. So it's either or, whichever suits you better. You're asking there about the wage subsidy scheme. It's on gov.ie. If you gov.ie and look up wage subsidy scheme, you'll get more information on that for anyone who's interested. And same with the work placement scheme. It's gov.ie work placement scheme. It'll come up as well. There is a website on the slide for that one though. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Anne-Marie. Just maybe one final one there for Jean, and I do have the information to send out in terms of campaigns, but if employer say wanted specifically to target some Eastern European countries to try and encourage drivers from those countries to come to us, how can they consider getting that set up, and what needs to be done to get set up?
Okay, thanks for that. Can you hear me? Yeah. So what we can do, say, for example, if it was countries like Romania and Bulgaria, for example, we can work with that employer to link in with our colleagues in both those countries and set up a recruitment event online, particularly for that employer. It can be a small tailored event. Or we can do it via CVs directly or setting up interviews directly for that employer. normally that we would work with the employer and possibly go with them to those countries to do a recruitment event, but we can do that online. We can work with them, whatever their preferred way to access that kind of a tailored event. We'll work closely with them to do that, or with a number of employers, if you like, we can do it. So the best approach is really just to either get directly back to you, Aidan, or to email me directly. So
Great.
Possibly through yourself, and we can link in. We can have a WebEx together and talk that through with the company.
Well, look, I think that's very good advice, and I think at least the option is there for consideration. So I think we'll leave it at that, coming up to just over an hour and 15 minutes. So I very much appreciate your time, because I know everybody's really, really busy. I think the content and what we've covered here today is obviously really important for the industry in terms of outreach, in terms of trying to highlight what's available to employers and to our members. So we're very, very grateful for your time. And thanks a million to Jane, who's very incredibly supportive on the logistics apprenticeship program and through the expert skills group. So we really do appreciate your time, particularly with college starting and getting ready for all of that. So and Jean and Anne-Marie, very, very much appreciate your time as well. I think Ray is gone, although some of his clones are here, but we very much appreciate Ray's time and contribution, and we continue to work collaboratively because I think that's where the best solutions are found when we work together. And there isn't any easy fix to this, unfortunately. But I think what we're trying to do is kind of raise awareness of the dynamic opportunities within the logistics supply chain, including the profession of driving, supporting that professional profession, and trying to create more awareness around the opportunities that are there. And I think continued engagement across the board is really, really important. So thanks very much to my colleagues, Catherine and Brian, for helping with the event today. And as I said, any additional information that you want in relation to outreach campaigns, you will have a copy of the presentation and contact details for Jean and Anne-Marie, or we're happy to share them with you. And we'll certainly be working with Jean and Anne-Marie in relation to outreach programs for some of those countries mentioned. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.